Hi folks, and welcome to another fly tying tutorial. The vise is at a funny angle because I wanted to show you the footprint of this fly rather than it from the side view. Now the reason for that is this is what the fish sees. So it's a quilled crippled midge, and without further ado, let's get into it. The hook in the vise then is a Hanak H230 barbless hook. This one's at size 14, it's on a medium wire and it's in black nickel. The thread or silk I'm going to be using today is from Sempify. It's the nano silk in 12/0, and as you can see it's black. Now the reason I'm tying these up is I've got a trip up to Llyn Clywedog at the end of the week, and I'll be swapping boxes with Rhys Fishes. And I wanted to tie up something that I think he'll be able to catch fish with on Llyn Clywedog. He knows the water very well. I've never been before, so I'm a bit nervous about giving him a box of flies from someone that's never fished the reservoir, but that's what we've agreed we'll do. I've had some good advice from some top anglers that fish Clywedog a lot, and hopefully I'll give him a box of killers. But let's get on and tie this one. First thing I'm going to do, as always, with the nano silks, I'm going to get a spot of super glue onto the shank, and I'm going to use my nano silk to spread that up and down the shank. Then I can come in just in behind the eye and get a few wraps of silk down. I'm going to come back and I'm going to leave approximately 3 to 4 millimeters before coming in and taking away my rat's tail. Next I'm going to use some poly yarn. I've just taken a strip off already to save a little bit of time, and I've got it here. As you can see, it's the perfect diameter for what I want, and I'm going to catch that in with a couple of turns like so. And once I've got that in place, I'm going to come all the way down the body, pulling it quite tight once I've secured it, and then approximately where a barb would be on a barbed hook, I'm going to just cut away the poly yarn. So this is going to represent a shuck, and the reason I'm not just cutting it straight is I want to have it kind of tapered, and that's just worked out fine. Happy enough with that. Next I'm going to come all the way back up to my post. Now before I go on, I am going to stick some beeswax onto my silk. I'm going to lift the post up, get 3 or 4 turns in front, and what I'm going to do is wrap around the post, and I want to build a good solid base for my feather. Now the post can be quite high. I'm going to go between 3 and 4 millimeters, and once I'm content, I've got it to the height I'm after, I'll bring my thread back down to the bottom. So that's looking hunky-dory. Don't be worried, I know it's going above the camera there, but there's nothing going on, I promise. Next I'm going to tie in a feather, and I'm using one of these feathers from my cock cape. It's black, and I've already picked a feather out here. Now it's not the ideal size, so what I want to do is just have a look at how long the fibres are, and I'm going to come in with my thumbnail and just strip some of them feathers, fibres away, like so. Now that looks much better, and what I want to do is leave about ½ centimetre, maybe a little more, like that. Now, when I'm dressing the feather up to the post, I want the outside of the feather here to be facing the water. So I'm going to put the bad side of the feather towards the post, like so. I'm going to catch in the stalk at the bottom, and then, excuse my fingers while I get it started. There's a bit of a faff to get it going, but once you've got it going, it's usually pretty well behaved. Not too bad. Now the little bit of stalk I've got at the bottom here, I'm not going to snip it away, I'm just going to include it and catch it in some wraps. Now the dubbing we're going to put on will alleviate that. Now I'm just going to try and clean any wax that might be remaining. I think I've managed to get through my wax, and I'm going to try and get complete coverage on my body. Now I want all this body to be black. I actually did trial this fly at Manningford Trout Fishery, which you're going to see on Thursday, and it did do quite well. So hopefully Rhys will be pleased with what I'm presenting him. So the body, I'm using some trout lines, strip peacock quill. Great to not have to be messing about trying to strip your own. Now as you can see, it's quite a long, generous peacock quill. I don't want all that. I've only got a size 14 in the vise, so what I want to do is just remove the very, very thin section at the end there, and I'm just going to do that over my cutting basket, and then I can catch that in just at the tail. And bring it all the way up. Job's a good one. I'll just bring my thread in front of my post, and I'm going to bring it all the way to the front of the hook. Get several turns in, and then what I can do is with my hackle pliers, I'm going to catch the end. Just make sure it's in there properly. Obviously, strip peacock herring, it is quite delicate, and you want to just take care when you're wrapping it. Now, the hardest part's always getting it started. Once you've got going, it generally is pretty easy and pretty well behaved, and the further up the body you get, the more confident I feel like I'm going to get to the end. So that's definitely worth bearing in mind. Slow start, and then as you get further up, you're able to confidently finish the fly off. So I'm going to bring that around to the front of the post, and I'm going to catch that in just on my side. 2 or 3 turns, a couple of turns in front, and then you can just snap away your peacock herring. Now, what I'm going to do next is I've got to protect this. Now, what I could have done one of two things. I could have added super glue to the body and then brought the herring through that, but I'm simply going to cover it in UV resin. Not much. It is a dry fly. I don't want it sinking too far below the surface. I want it just to be sitting in the film. So you've got to allow for that. Very thin coat of resin will do the job. And once you've got that on, you've got to take care with the resin, and that's why the old the brush on the bone dry is so helpful, especially for things like this. You don't want to be coating your poly yarn and UV resin. take care when you're applying it, and you want to just give it plenty time to dry. You can't afford for all your bits and bobs to be stuck to the resin. Okay, I think that'll do it, and as I touch it, it feels dry to me. So far so good. So next what I want to do is bring my thread up. I'm going to come in at back of the post, and what I want to do is add my thorax, and the thorax I'm using is from Simplify. It's part of their sparkle dubbing range, and I've chosen claret. I've used black, it works just as well, but I just thought I'd change it up and add a little bit of claret. So I'm just going to put that onto the fly, get it started, and then I'll get a few turns in behind the post. It doesn't dub to the thread particularly well, but once you've got it going, it's absolutely fine. I'm going to come to the front. Now, it's essential that you leave a good amount of material, a good amount of space at the front of the hook here. You'll see I've left quite a lot of space, and there's good reason for that, and we'll come on to that shortly. So my last turn's going to come in behind, and what I want to do now is just separate that dubbing from the thread. And then I want to bring my thread up behind the post and then around and rest it there. And that's ideal for me. That's what I want to finish the fly off. That will be quite helpful. Then next, I'm going to come in and remove my excess dubbing. And that's looking pretty good so far. Next then, I'm going to use my hackle pliers to catch the tip off my feather, and I'm going to bring that round. Now, the poly yarn will try and misbehave. Just keep it in order by stroking it with your fingers. And what I want to do is just bring that round. Now, you could be a super neat freak and strip down one side of the feather, but this is a fishing fly and I want it to float in the water, not look pretty for the camera. So I'm keeping both sides of the hackle, and as I come round this side where I brought my thread around the post, I'm going to meet that and get several wraps onto that hackle, so I know it's going nowhere. Then when I've got it underneath, I'm going to come to the front of the hook. Now, this fly, it's not difficult to tie, it's just fiddly. It's a bit fiddly, and you've got to take your time and you've got to practice, and eventually you'll get it to just how you want it. So next then, we take our post, and that's why I like to leave quite a long post, and we're going to bend that over the front of the eye of the hook, and I'm going to get one turn in to secure it. Now, with my thumb and forefinger in my left hand, I want to try and get as much of the black hackling back as I can. So, fingers in, post forward. You are obviously going to miss a couple. We'll get 2 or 3 turns to secure that. And then I'm going to come in front, get 2 or 3 turns on, and before I whip finish it, I'm going to add a little bit of resin so that I don't have to come in at a later time with the head cement and make a mess of the fly, which I would probably do. So once I've done this, I can secure that in place like so. Remove my thread and then give it a blast. So it's like a paraloop type fly this, but we're going to mash down the wing and I like to do that just with my thumb. You can use your nail if you want to really flatten it out. Now the bit of the fly that's treated with floatant is the hackle here, and the rest of the body will be lying in the surface film. As I say, I have trialled this fly and it did work quite well at Manningford. So I'm hoping it will do a turn at Llyn Clywedog and Rhys and I will catch a few fish. So I'm just coming in with a dubbing brush, tease out some of that thorax, and there we go. Now if I tilt the vise to the side, hopefully you'll see the footprint of the fly, and it's absolutely irresistible to trout. Thanks very much for watching the video. If you're getting some value from them, please give the video a like. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I would appreciate your support by clicking that subscribe button and hitting the bell icon.